let me first go recall what we have learned in the previous class, then I will start to uh, discuss about new topics. So we have learned that evolution is a universal phenomena. It's universal in a sense in whichever organism you are, if you want to see why that organism have that kind of particular behavior, and we can always find a evolutionary reason. And why it is universal? Because in the uh, basic principles of life, it says that any organism uh, will be capable to reproduction. That means it will replicate themselves. So replication is there, and since the replication has a rate, and if the two behavior for any kinds of reason, if the two behavior have different kind of reproduction rate, then the selection will select one of that behavior. And how the how the different kind of behavior appears from one kind of behavior, that is that is explained by the mutation during the replication process. During the replication of DNA and RNA, maybe at some point of the DNA and RNA strand some changes happen, that is called mutation. And due to the mutation, and these DNA or RNA, since these DNA or RNA are the basic thing of behavior, so if DNA and RNA change a little bit, then mutation happens. This is the thing. Now we have in the previous class we talk about this replication, reproduction. Basically we talk about how a asexual individual, asexual bacteria reproduces, and how can we simply mathematically model it. And we here we see that asexual populations exponential growth for with discrete equation, it is called difference equation. Then we make it continuous, and we see that there is this kind of equation comes, and it says something. Now after seeing this is also telling about the reproduction of a asexual population. And after discretize it, we find out one logistic equation, or what is called logistic equation. And this logistic equation has some nice property, or you we can at least say theoretically from this simple equation we can say why lot of complexity around us, and why simple rule means it is the mathematical explanation. And for that the simple rule can in principle generate very complicated dynamics. This is also a part of reproduction. So only in the regime of reproduction we have seen this many. We haven't talked about the selection. Then we came to the selection, and we we saw that the if the selection means if these two has different reproduction rate, suppose blue and red have blue has reproduction rate B, and this red has reproduction rate A, and here I am using reproduction and replication synonymously. Here it is one copy of red making two copies of red, here one copy of blue making two copies of blue with red B. And with that, if these two behavior or these two behavioral trait of a bacteria has some different kind of some different reproduction rate, we see that they one of them will automatically select, and we call as if nature selected or the environment selected one of them which is more fitter in that environment. So that we have seen up to that part, that if someone has better fitness, here again I am using a technical term fitness, and fitness means, here let me write it, here I am again using the fitness. So fitness is nothing but the reproduction rate, reproduction rate. So if one individual in a particular environment, suppose that one individual is more fitter, that means its fitter means its fitness is greater than the blue, suppose. That means if A is greater than blue, that means A is more fitter than blue in this environment, and we saw that automatically our equation tells us that A will be, at the end of the day, A will be selected, and x equal to 0, we have seen that the other individuals, blue individuals, go toward extinction, and automatically A will be selected. That is called the selection of the fitter. So that far we go in the previous class. So let me that we see that uh, selection of fitter. But we have seen in the popular textbook that selection of the fittest, survival of the fittest, selection of the fittest or survival of the fittest. Let's see how can we saw the survival of the fittest. Survival. So, as these terms suggest, at least more than two types of individuals should be there. If only two types of individual will be there, then we call it fitter. But if more than two types of individuals will be there, then we can call one type of individuals. And here one type means I am here whenever I will call type. Type means one particular behavior or aspect of an organism which is directly or indirectly affect the reproduction rate. So there could be different aspect of an individual, means they could be different in various ways. So these various way could affect their reproduction rate. So these are the types. So now suppose in place of 2 we have n types of individuals. Suppose label them. We have n types of individuals. 1, 2, n types of so n types of individual within a species. I am saying, suppose we are taking a bacterium, and this same bacterium has different kind of properties, and those properties created by the mutation. So those are my types. Now suppose the frequencies is xi, t is the frequencies of the ith type. Frequency means the total number of individual of that type. Suppose total number of individuals ni t that type by the total number of individuals in the population, 1 to n ni t. So this is my frequency of the ith type. Now if I want to show the survival of the fittest, then I have to show that in the long run the individual will survive whose fitness, whose fitness is highest among them. So we have to associate fitness with every types of individual. Suppose that if I is the fitness of the ith individual, ith individual. And then let us write the equation. Again we will take help from this equation, or let us rebuild the equation again once again. Suppose that ni is the total number of individuals, and we have seen that ni dot means ddt of ni will be fi ni. Fi is the reproduction rate and ni is the total number of individuals. So the ni dot, the increment of the ni in any small time interval dt will be fi into ni. Now we can, this type of equation will be there for n. Now I want to write a equation xi dot. So we have to write d dt of ni by summation of ni. So this will be 1 over summation of ni d dt of ni minus 1 over summation over ni its square and summation of I, there will be ni d dt of ni. Now this will be simply ni dot means fi ni. So if I, in place of dni dt, if I put this quantity, it will be ni by summation of ni fi minus ni summation of ni into summation of I, summation of I d dt of ni by summation of ni, and all the equation will be have similar form. So we'll have, this is the xi. So xi, if I take xi fi minus this will be suppose this is, take this is j, this is suppose j, this is suppose k. Every summation goes from 1 to n. I am just only different, I am only use the different symbol for summation, that will not change my summation for simplification. So it will be, so summation of j equal to 1 to n, this will nj dot again will be fj nj, nj dot will be same, this is nj dot by summation of k equal to 1 to n nk. This is xi fi minus this will be summation of j equal to 1 to n, and this will be nj by summation of nk will be xj fj. This will be my equation. So let me write it equation xi dot, the rate of change of the frequency will be depend on xi and fi minus summation of j equal to 1 to n and xj. Now if we could thought that there is a infinite population, suppose that my population size, total population size is very large, so that means if I k equal to 1 to nit is very large, suppose infinity, then we could thought xit, the frequencies of the any type, we could thought it as probabilities, and if it is the probabilities, then what will be this quantity? Suppose write phi equal to this quantity, j equal to 1 to n xj h, and this quantity is nothing but the average fitness. So if I take one individual from the population, and if it is j type, what will be the probability that I will get if I randomly pick an individual? What will be the probability that that individual will be j type, that is xj, and then what is the what is its fitness, that will be fj. Now if I ask you that on average, if I take any individual from an infinite population, what will be its average fitness? That will be simply summation of this. So this quantity is nothing but the average fitness. So this is saying xi dot equal to xi fi minus summation of this is the average fitness. Okay. This is supposed to write it phi. So this equation if you see that this equation is very familiar to us because it gives us something about the natural selection. So if in words the natural selection tells that if some type of individuals has some type of individuals have higher fitness than this average fitness of the population, then that population will grow, that type of individuals will grow. So it is the law of natural selection, law of natural.
So, I mean, these
Okay.
three terms
Huh.
are creating ambiguity actually.
Okay.
So, what this FI stands for? Is this the fitness of the ith individual,
Yes.
or the rate of the reproduction of the ith individual? What is it? I mean, what's the relation?
Okay. So fi is the reproduction rate of the ith individual.
Okay, so higher the reproduction rate, and the fitter
Huh.
the species is.
Yes.
Is this a relation?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
actually I am means this is some means you have to means here in this course the fitness means the reproduction rate. So
Oh, I see. Okay.
fitness
Okay.
means is the reproduction rate.
Fine. And what this XI would then stands for?
It is the frequency. It is the frequency of the ith type. So if suppose there are my total xi is the frequency. Suppose ni is the total number of ith type of individuals, summation over how many individuals are there.
Okay. Okay.
It
Okay.
is the
Yes.
frequency.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Fine. Thank you.
Huh. So this is the law of natural selection. So it says that if some types of individuals are more fitter than the average population, they will grow in the frequency. How? Because this term is positive, and if fi is greater than phi, then this term will be also positive. So then this equation suggests that the velocity at that point will be increasing. Sorry, this is the this velocity of that point will be increasing. So if it is greater than 0, so that this implies that xi dot will be greater than 0, and if it is xi dot is greater than 0, that means the state of that or the frequency at the next instant will be higher than the previous instant. So that means if we can prove if we can prove that this is always positive, then we can say these will be always satisfied. That means the population will go to the population, the frequency of that type will increasing, continuously increased, and after some point of time all the individuals in the population will become that type. So that is that then we can say that the environment select that type of individual. So let here I want to say you some technical terms. Means when anyone will read any textbook of evolutionary game theory, these are the technical terms he will always encounter. That is called simplex. This is nothing to do with evolution, but it is the technical terms in which terms the mathematician and so means the mathematician talk about this equation. So this is one term is simplex. Simplex means suppose I have one dimensional space. That one dimensional space means only two types of okay, let me not one dimension. So we have only two types of individuals. Suppose n equal to two types of individual. Then since our total number of population is constant, we can represent it by one dimensional equation from 0 to 1. So this is the frequency of the one type of individual can represent the whole population, because the other type of the frequency of other type of individuals will automatically will be 1 minus x, and in such a way that x plus 1 minus x will be always constant 1. So this is called a simplex of two dimension. So simplex of 2 dimension, and any point here that this equation in 1 dimension is says that this equation actually um, uh, constant, that any point in the simplex will remain in this simplex. And second thing is, let me give another example of 3 dimension that will be much more clearer. So suppose there are three types of individuals in a population. So one's frequency is x1, another is x2, and other is x3. Now these three axes represent the frequencies, and this goes from it goes from 0 to 1. Suppose 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. Now since my total number of individual in a population is constant, that means this relation has to be whole. X2 plus x3 is equal to 1. And if I want to draw a surface who satisfied this equation, it will be a triangular in this uh, 3D coordinate. So this surface this surface is satisfying this equation. So I can means means this is, since this equation has to be whole, then this equation, if I want to see the population state, we have to run this equation, and this equation solution will always remain in the simplex. If it remain inside the simplex, it cannot go outside the simplex, because uh, it has to satisfy this equation, and this simplex is called the simplex 2. And the simplex have, it is very simple thing. Simplex has some properties. So here, suppose in this example of simplex, it has four faces. One is this x3 x2 plane, another is x2 x1 plane, another is x1 x3 plane. This is the three faces, and there is another fourth faces is in that above. So it has actually fourth faces. This is fourth faces, and fourth, in every phases, in every three phases, x1 x2 phase, the phases in x1 x2 plane, the phases in x2 x3 plane, and the phase in x1 x3 plane, means for x1 x2 phase in this plane, that uh, this plane means this line is always satisfied, that x3 is 0, and this line always satisfy that x1 is 0, and this line always satisfy the x3, this line always satisfies the x2 is 0. And this is called the corner of the simplex, and this corner means only one point one in this corner. If the population is in the simplex, in the corner of a simplex, that means only one type of individuals are there. Means if I want to represent the population state mathematically, and I say the population state is in this simplex, that means its x1 frequency will be 1 and other will be 0. So 1 0 comma 0, this means only x1 type of population will be there. So that is it. Now uh, this is it. This is nothing to do with the natural selection, but this is the mathematical language they use in terms of simplex. Now let's go back to the whatever we was, that what is the selection of the fittest. Now suppose that among the nth type, if I is fitter than any j, which is if j not equal to I for all j belongs to 1 to n. So if fi is the most fittest guy here, because its reproduction rate is reproduction rate is the biggest, I mean is the highest among the all others, so that means it is the fittest individuals here, fittest type of individuals here. Then my equation should automatically tells that the frequency in the long run, the frequency of this type will become 1, and all other type should become 0. So let's check that thing. So from here xi dot equal to xi, here a phi minus summation of j equal to 1 to n xj hj. Now, and since this is a convex combination, so let me give an example. So suppose x is the
Yeah, I have a query here
okay,
at this point that how the value of the average fitness be equal to the summation of xi and then fj.
okay,
Shouldn't be
huh,
xi and the fj similar to the one you wrote earlier?
this
Uh,
this one you are saying.
yes, like say earlier you wrote,
Huh.
okay, earlier also you wrote, yeah,
Hmm.
xj and then fj or fi.
fj fj
Fj, and now this time you are writing xj and then fi, or
fj. Sorry for
okay,
my
it's fj.
for my
Okay,
writing. So it should be fj
okay, all right, then it's
xj.
fine.
Huh.
Fine.
And this is average means a convex combination of the fitness. So let me give an example in two dimension, that will be very clear. Suppose xj is a fraction, so it is a number between 0 to 1. So this is number between 0 to 1. There are two number a and b. Suppose a is greater than b. Now this is a, this is b. Now if I make any convex combination, that means x is a number which is between 0 to 1, then my this quantity ax plus, sorry, let's write in this way, ax plus b1 minus y x will always remain in between this, in between this, anywhere in between this. It could not be lesser than b, and it could not be greater than a minus b, a. So its highest value will be when x equal to 1, then it will give the highest value a, and when it will give the lowest value when x equal to 0, then it will give the lowest value, and the in between it will always remain in between this line. So this is the line in between. I am not, this is the value of this function. So let me write in this way. Suppose this is the function f of x, or maybe g of x, and this is x equal to 0, this is x equal to 1, and at this point fx is b, at this point fx is a, at this point, at this point a. Now if, since this is called convex combination, so it should always, gx should be always be bound by this. So gx should always be less than or greater equal to a. So if I find out which is the maximum among these fj's, we can tell that that will be greater. So that means it's that this function, this phi, is also a convex combination, but it is a convex combination not in one dimension but n dimension. N equal to 0, I j equal to 0 to n xj fj. And since we know that xi is the most fittest guy for all fj, so that means this should be always less than or equal to, it should always be less than or equal to a phi. This is actually g. So this should be, because this is a convex combination, and what is the maximum value of fj, that is actually fi. And from here we see that from two dimension example we see that this function's maximum value will be fa. So this function should always lesser than this maximum value of this. here maximum value of this will be fi. So phi will be always less than fi. So that means xi dot equal to xi. So since xi is greater than 0 always, and that means fi minus phi should always be greater than 0. So into some number which is always greater than 0, some alpha which is always greater than 0. So that means it's saying that xi t plus dt in this next instant, or in this way, right? So it says that x t prime or t plus t t prime will always be greater than xt. So that means population is always increasing. So can it be increasing infinitely? No, there is a upper bound. If it touches that bound, it will stop there. So the frequency of the ith type is always increasing. So where it will stop? It will stop at a fixed point. Fixed point means where it touches that point, its velocity it no longer increase. It increment stop. It no longer increase further. So let us find that point. So if I open this bracket xi dot equal to xi, so one fixed point is if I put xi equal to 0, that xi dot will become 0. But at xi 0, since always this xi dot is increasing, so that means from xi equal to 0, it will always increasing to some other value, some other greater value. So this will be xi. Now here from if I close this bracket, then here I will get one term xi fi, and that will be j equal to not equal to I, and from n xj fj, and xi if I take 1 minus xi minus summation of j not equal to I n xj fj. Now you see that xi 0 cannot be the state, because at any in time of instant the population, the frequency of ith type is increasing, so this cannot be the final step. And there is another fixed point which is xi equal to 1 and all other xj j not equal to y is 0. So if I put xi equal to 1 and all xj which not equal to I putting 0, then this term will become xi dot will become 0. So that means my my equation is telling us that the population will always go towards the state whose population state is 1 0 0 0 0. So that means it will reaches to a corner of a simplex, and that actually means it the population always go toward that direction, means population at some point of time all individuals of the population will become ith type. So that is telling that differential reproduction rate always select that type of individual who is a fittest, who is the fittest among them. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, then let us go toward the next type. So in the environment we are not seeing that every time, we are not seeing that only one type of individual, one type of behavior is there, but sometimes we see that lot of different types of behavior actually coexisting with each other. Suppose for an example, for our eye color, so different type of eye color actually coexisted in the population. So but if this suggests that only one types of individuals, one types of behavior should persist in the population. So there should be some equations or some mathematical model which should which should capture this fact. So let us see that survival, how this survival of all, this means survival of all works. Survival of this, there are two things: survival of all and survival first. So what does the survival of the first means? Let me explain a few minutes here. Survival of the first means whoever comes first in the population, he that will be survive in the long run, and uh, the other who came through mutation will not survive. So we'll see how it happens through equation. Survival of all. First, let us see survival of all. Now, suppose means without any physical reason, if we assume, for now, we'll see in the later in the course. For now, without any physical reason, if we assume that now again, suppose there are only two types of A types of individual and B types of individual. Now, if I write that frequency, here we have written the equation for the this xi fi, but instead of xi fi, if I write now say type individual fitness is fa and this is fitness is b. Fitness is a means reproduction rate is a and fitness is b means reproduction rate is b. So xi dot, if I write, let me write x to the power c a minus x phi, and phi is basically the average fitness. This is coming because we are saying that the population cannot grow infinitely. The population, total population, no, we are saying that total population size is constant. That's why this negative term, negative x phi is coming, and the reason is same as we derived here, but here only we are taking one assumption. In place of, we have derived that in this term should be xa, this is should be, but in place of this linear function we are writing a non-linear relation, non-linear relation, and now this there is you may seem it, I mean it may seems that there is no physical reason behind it. Yes, it is true, but in the later of the course, in the later course, you will find that there is some reason where this non-linear fitness, non-linear frequency dependent fitness will automatically come. So, and our purpose is to show that we can in principle write an equation, means we can in principle design an equation which supports the survival of the all. That's why we are writing this term. Now, if I write this equation, and similarly we can, this is the x is the frequency, x is the frequency of A type, then we can write again, and y, suppose y is the frequency of the B type, and naturally y will be 1 minus x. So this equation is x dot is xca minus x5. So we can characterize this equation by two ways. Means one is if c is greater than 1, it is called superlinear equation. Superlinear equation, that means if growth rate is higher than the linear, and one is c less than 1, this is called sublinear equation. Sublinear equation, this means its growth rate, if I go the growth rate of the frequency will be uh, slower than the linear one. Now that's an hand, let us calculate what will be the form of the phi. So phi will be, let me write it, then it will be clearer. So phi will be the average fitness. So if I take it here, suppose x, and it will be x c minus 1a minus phi, and we know that this, we know from our previous expression that this phi is the average fitness, this is the xi fitness minus this term will be average fitness. So that means this is average fitness. So this will be, and this is the fitness of the A type. Similarly, this is the fitness of A type, and similarly we can write this will be the 1 minus x into c to the power b will be the fitness of B type. Then phi will be a x to the power c minus 1 plus b 1 minus x to the power c minus 1. Okay, sorry, I am sorry, this is not the case. Okay, let me write it, then it will be clear. Let me derive the expression of the phi. So x dot is, we can write x dot in this way. Now we can similarly suppose that the B type's frequency is y. We can also write same expression for y dot. Y dot will be y to the power c into b minus y into phi. And if I add these two terms, d dt of x plus y, that should be 0 because x plus y should always remain 1. So that means if I add these two terms, then this will be xca plus y to the power cb minus x phi minus y phi should 0. So that means xca plus ycb, this will be phi if I take count minus phi x plus y, since x plus is y always 1, so this means phi is equal to xc a xc plus b y to the power c. So this means we can write phi is a xc plus b 1 minus x to the power c. Yeah,
So why this x plus y is equal to 0? I mean the derivative of this.
because x plus since x is the frequency of A type and y is the frequency of B type, in the population there will be no other types, so the
Oh,
two frequencies should add it up to 1, and if it is, since it is a constant, that's why it is should be 0.
yes.
Okay, that's it. Now then we got the expression of phi. Let's write x dot is x a minus a xc minus a xc minus a phi. So we got the expression of phi. If I write it here, so it will be a xc, this, sorry, this, there is a not this type of equation, it is xc minus x phi. So xc minus x phi means this will be a xc plus 1 c minus x 1 minus x c into xc minus xc into b. So I just putting x and I just writing it up. So x ac c, this is x into c. Now if I take this common, x to the c common, then it will be axc. So this will be 1 minus x, and this will, if I take same thing, 1 to take out same thing, we have to take x x into 1 minus x into 1 minus x to the power c minus 1 into b. Now if I take x into 1 minus x common, x into 1 minus x, it will x to the power c minus 1 minus b 1 minus x to the power c minus 1. That we got the equation. Now our is called the this is technically this is called replicated equation because it is the replication process. This is called replicated equation. So our replicated equation now become this is called means all the equations whatever we write, all those equation called replication equation because all those equation captures only one thing, the how the individuals are replicated. This is the equation. Now let's see whatever we learned previous day, that we have to see what are the fixed points here and we have to check which fixed point will be stable. So first step is what are the fixed points here, and why we want to know that what are the fixed points, because the population will go always toward the fixed point, because if it reaches to the fixed point and it will remain there forever, because after that fixed point means where the velocity is 0. So velocity is 0 means it will go toward that point, and if it reaches that point it will never escape from that point, it will remain that point. So we can say my population fate is that. But this is why we are interesting about fixed point, and we want here to show, because why we are interested in this stuff. So we want we want to show a such kind of form of fitness function which shows that all kind of individual will survive, all kind of individual will coexist. So that's why we are after this equation. So we have to solve this equation. So you will get three type of fixed point. One is x equal to 0. If x equal to 0, then x dot equal to 0 automatically. That means if a type individuals become extinct and all the population will become b type, since no mutation is there, b type only produces b type, this is a fixed state. So x equal to 0 is 1, x equal to 1 will be other, and what other will be, if this is minus b 1 minus x c minus 1 is 0. So if I calculate it, x to the power c minus 1 b equal to b 1 minus x to the power c minus 1, and this will be c minus 1 a x root c minus 1 b 1 minus x. So after solving this equation you will get that another point where the velocity is 0, let's write its x star. These are the fixed points. So this will come 1 by 1 over root over of c minus 1 root by a by b. So you see uh, in the previous case only two fixed points was there. One is x star is 0 and other is x star is equal to 1. Now we get another fixed point whose state is a mixed state, who says that if I go to this x star value, if I go to this x star, this population state, my population will not change further, because the at that point velocity is 0. So in no direction the velocity is there, so the population will stop there. And if the population is stopped there, uh, and this and there has two type of frequency existed, two types actually this frequency suggests that two types of individuals are coexisted, because it is neither 0 nor 1 in between this. So that means we can, if we can show that x star could be a stable fixed point of the system, then we are all done. We can show that there exists some fitness function where the all survive, that means all coexist each other. So now that's why we have to see that the stability. And stability means whatever we learn, the linear stability. So linear stability means, suppose I am in the fixed point. Now suppose some noise happen on, I just differ from this fixed point. Suppose this is my fixed point from some epsilon distance. Now I am asking whether this epsilon will automatically decrease to x star or it will further increase. Stability means that. Okay. Now let's calculate the stability of x star equal to 0. Now from previously we know that this is my function. Suppose this is my function fx, and from previous lecture we know that how can we check the stability. So this is was our fixed point, and this is derivative of fx with respect to x at the fixed point. If this function, this constant comes out greater than 0, then we'll say that this point is unstable. That means if I differ from that fixed point tiny amount, it will, the difference will increase further. And if it's negative, then we say that this fixed point is asymptotically stable. That means if the any population state is nearer to that fixed point, it will automatically asymptotically reach toward this fixed point. So we have to check now the first derivative. So first we have to check that ddx of, if I this function fx at x equal to 0, ddx of f of x at x equal to 1, and ddx of f of x at x equal to x star. For c greater than 1, c less than 1. Let's see. So first see, let x equal to 0. For x equal to 0. So derivative, let me first derivative dd of x star 0 will be, we have to derivative all the term which contain x, because derivative rule is, suppose x into some function of, okay, this is a technique of derivative. Or maybe I suppose this function is g, this function of g, this function of gx. So we can write x into gx ddx. So why I am writing this, because it will simply we can calculate this g prime x. So this term will be automatically 0, because at x equal to 0 it will be automatically 0. Only term that survive, which is gx. So that means here the gx will be derivative of x equal to 0, x equal to 0, the gx will be, gx 0 will be 1, and this will be 0. Okay, see, this will be 1 minus x into 1 minus x into a x to the power c minus 1, c minus 1. Now we have to take, we have to do it very carefully, because b to the power, b to the power 1 minus x to the power c minus 1. Now we have to take a limit x tends to 0. Why we have to take it carefully? Because x to the power c minus 1 term. Why? If c greater than 1, if suppose c greater than 1, for c greater than 1 it is simple. So c greater than 1, it will nothing happen, it will be 1. It is a, it is a, this will be minus b, this will be a minus b, this will be a minus, oh sorry, this will be minus b, sorry, this will be only minus b for c greater than 1. Now for c less than 1, you see this will become a x to the power, okay, let me do it for c, for c, okay, c greater than 1, okay, let me do it in this way so it will be messed up. So for then it comes out that for c greater than 1, f prime of x, f prime means ddx of x at x equal to 0 is minus b. Now let's calculate it for c less than 1. It will be limit x tends to 0, 1 minus x a x c minus 1 minus b 1 minus x to the power c minus 1. Now one very interesting thing happens. You see, when c less than 1, suppose this is c is 0.5, that means x to the power c minus 1 will be x to the power minus 0.5. Now we cannot simply put x equal to 0 and say that this is a 0, because limit x tends to 0, this will be infinity. If I put x equal to 0 here, so this will be very large number. So that means this is 1, but this is a very large number. So a into some very large number infinity minus b, and again this will not affect anything, so this will be 1 minus 0, so 1 to the power anything will be 1 b. So 1, so infinity minus b will be infinity, so this will be very large positive number, large positive number. Basically it is infinity, positive infinity, so greater than 0. So we see for c greater than 1, for c greater than 1, x equal to 0 is a stable fixed point. But for c less than 1, the x equal to 0 is not a stable fixed point, it will be unstable fixed point. So similarly we can calculate for the x equal to 1 case. Is it clear? Stability analysis, maybe a little bit is clear.
It is not that much clear
Yeah.
actually. So, if you can summarize the important points of this thing again, then that would be helpful.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yes. And please also tell that what is the fixed point here? Around which point are we trying to analyze the entire thing?
Okay, okay, okay. So here fixed point means where the dynamics stop, means where this dd ddt of x equal to 0, that will be my fixed point. So where the ddt of x will be 0, so x dot means ddt of x is this function fx. So where fx will become 0, that will be my fixed point. So you can think like this, because this is a great example for tell that thing. Suppose that here it appear that, let me draw that diagram. For c greater than 1, this is stable. So for c greater than 1, c greater than 1, the system will be look like this. So this will be a stable fixed point, this will be a stable fixed point, and that is a unstable fixed point. So I am saying that, so suppose there is a, in simply there is a hill, for c greater than 1, this is simply this kind of structure. uh, Now okay, so this kind of system is there. Suppose there is a hill, and it has a two valley. This is suppose a valley, and this is a valley. Now If you see that, I have a ball and I want to keep that ball in the top, so it will stay there. If I don't part up, I can means if I very uh, cautiously put the ball over the top, it will remain there always if I not part up the ball. So this is one of the fixed point for c equal to c greater than 1, and this fixed point is corresponding to that internal fixed point. X star is this one. So if I put my population in the top of the hill, it will stay there. Now why it is unstable, and linear stability says that if I perturb this little bit, if I perturb it in this direction, it will came towards this valley. Now this is in the valley, the ball will stop there. Now this corresponding to, suppose this corresponding to x equal to 1 state, this is x equal to 0 state, and this is x equal to x star state. Now if I now I in if the ball is one valley, suppose in x equal to 0 valley, now if I part up the ball little bit, it will again come towards the valley. So that is basically saying by this negative eigenvalue. So this is says that for c greater than 1, this fixed point is stable, and also you will go through the step, then x equal to 1 also be stable fixed point, and x equal to x star will be the unstable one. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
So basically I am wanting to do by mathematics this step. So here there is a gravity and these things will do the work, but in this case there is no gravity but the velocity, because here also you are saying that if I perturb the, in which direction the velocity will be. So if I perturb the ball here, the velocity will be in this direction or in this direction. So that equation we have, this is equation, and the derivative of that function is negative 0 less than 0 or it is greater than 0 is actually saying like that. If I part up the system from here to little bit here, if it is negative, that means the velocity will be in this direction. In whichever direction I am increasing my position, the velocity is in the opposite direction. So then when the when the velocity is derivative with respect to if it is negative, that means it will pull the position of the particle toward this fixed point. So this is basically the stable fixed point and unstable fixed point concept. So that's it. Now okay, this is for the c greater than 1. Now suppose for c less than 1, c less than 1, one very interesting thing happens. We saw for c less than 1, this is c greater than 1, for c less than 1, how the case will be, the case will be this kind of thing. So there is a, okay, for c less than 1, so this kind of thing. Okay, for c less than 1, my population structure will look like this. This will be x equal to 0, x equal to 1. Now if I want to keep a ball here and if I part up, it will remain there if I not part up the system, but if I part up the system, it will automatically come towards this direction. That means my derivative, if I uh, part up the system a little bit, my velocity's direction will be always opposite to the x equal to 0. So that is where we are talking about that, that at c less than 1, if I increment the position a little bit by dx amount, in which direction my velocity will change at nearer x equal to 0, you will see it will greater than 0. That means be it will be in the direction, it will be in the direction opposite to my change of the position. So if I, it is in the direction of the change of my position, if I change a little bit from in this direction, the velocity also increase in this direction. So that's why it says that x equal to 0 is unstable fixed point, and also you will see the similar thing at x equal to 1, that x equal to 1 is also unstable fixed point at c less than 1. Only the stable fixed point will be at x equal to x star, at x equal to x star.
Yes.
That for they, that is, I mean, that is my reason for doing this stuff. So I am saying that at the end of the day, we can write in principle an equation. If c is less than 1, that means c is sublinear 1, then we can tell there in the population there exists a state where the all can remain together peacefully, that means the coexistence is possible. So since x star is not 0 in this c less than 1, x star is not 0 and not 0, not 1, but x star will be always, most of means always, x equal to x star in between 0 to 1. In between 0 to 1 means a and b remain with each other. That means that this means this survival of all. So that is the thing. Is it clear? Survival of the all.
Yes.
Okay. So that the first thing, and the second thing is survival of the fast. So survival of the fast means if in if is this is the line, so survival of the fast will be in the case, in this case, suppose initially my population was nearer to this x equal to 0 in this value. So that means if my population initial state x equal to 0 at t equal to 0, x equal to 0 was lesser than the x star, that means it was nearer to this x equal to 0 value. So I can guarantee that at t tends to infinity it will always go toward the x equal to 0 state. That means in the population who, means here x equal to 0 means all b type individuals. So if the population, all the b type means nearly all the b type population exist at t equal to 0, it says that at the long term no a individual will come into the population. Even if a individual come into the population, they will be extinct and the all population will become b type individual. So that is, whoever was the first existed in that environment, that we will see that kind of individuals there. And the opposite thing is true for x equal to 1, or opposite side of the value also. So this is called the survival of the fast. Whoever which population was present firstly, they will survive, and other will not survive. So that is the case. That is the case. So now give me one example for two to guess, then it will be very clear. So one example of a sub linear case c greater than 1. Sorry, sub no not, let me give me first this survival of the all example for c less than 1. So this is an example of immigration. Immigration is an example of c equal to 1. Why? So immigration is a not reproduction. So suppose there is a habitat and some individuals immigrated from other place to this place. Now I want to write a dynamics of this place, and some immigrant come from some other places, and a type individuals, suppose a type individuals came at a rate b, and b type individuals came at a rate b a, oh sorry, this is a and this is b. Then the equation should be x dot will be a minus phi x. You see, I take c equal to 0 here. So initially what was my equation? A x to the power c minus x pi. So if I take x equal to 0, c equal to 0, that means x dot is a minus phi x. So with constant rate, some A type individuals coming into the population. And what will be the phi here? Let me calculate again. It will be, if you simply say, see that x dot plus y dot is 0, so phi equal to a plus b. So that means x dot will be a minus a plus b into x. So that is a into 1 minus x minus bx. And okay, maybe not right in this way. Okay, this is my equation. This is my equation, and from the above analysis you can always say that what will be the fixed point of the system, where that x star will be 0, and what will be the x star will be 0 when a minus a plus b x will be 0, and when it will be, suppose at x star point, so x star will be a by a plus b. So if the means this is the point, this is the fixed point when the state of the population will stop there and it will not increase further, because at that point velocity is 0. Now this is the immigration dynamics, no one actually reproducing. So previously if someone's, and here interesting point is that if the rate of the immigration A is higher than B, previously we have we have seen that if the reproduction rate is higher than the other, the higher report means fitter individuals will be always selected in the population, but here it is not the case. So if A is greater than B, means the fitness of A is greater than B, then also A type of individual will not be selected. The state of the population will be selected is an internal state, that is means the frequency of that state will be A by A plus B. And why it is so? Suppose that immigration number of individual came, and since the how many types of number of suppose it in the selection, it depends of the, if A is my fitness and x is the frequency, so in the next step how many number of A type of individual will produce will depend on A, and also on how many number of A type of individuals are present there. It will depend on this factor. Now here it will not depend on the factor, so it will only depend on constantly came constant flow of A and constant flow of B, and that will create a midpoint. So this is an example, immigration is an example of how the two type of individual can coexist each other. So this is one. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Now let's move toward another example, which is called for c greater than 1. So suppose c equal to 2. So for c equal to 2, x dot will be not write that equation again. X dot will be we know that equation. Okay, let me ax square. Let me quickly write it.
But I have a query here.
Okay.
I mean, it's true that we have developed the equations for the two types of the population. So, I mean, what if we have a multiple number of the species and all the species are interacting with one another, and there is a common pool of the resources for which they all are fighting? So, I mean, in those cases, the differential equations must have been very, very complicated. So, I mean, will the theory, whatever I mean these theories we are discussing, be valid for in such a scenario?
Yeah, in such a scenario also it is valid. So we can, means we have seen an example that if I have n number of when survival of the fittest, so here also we have seen that here we have talked about that if I have n types of individuals and they no they actually not interacting that way with each other, but if they are not interacting, then we can write this type of equation. And in principle we will see that if they all are interacting with each other, then also we can write an equation for the n types. And this is an example, of if they are interacting with each other, then we can write an equation. So it is for only two types. For if I have suppose 10 type of individuals or 100 type of individuals, then also we can write the equation in principle, and the form of the equation will be same as it written here, but the lot of other term will be came into this equation.
Okay, okay, okay.
We can write. We'll see in the later in the course that we
Okay,
can write
okay,
this type of equation.
fine.
So this is a example of a equation. So what it says, so here this equation tells us that only one type of individual will be in the population in the long run. So for example, suppose it says if my population is nearly nearly all B type. Now if I introduce some very small fraction of A type, and if I ask the question, will the A type will survive in the all nearly all B type population? Now my analysis says no, it cannot be, because if it is nearer to x equal to 0, it will always go to x equal to 0. Why it is the case? Because you see here only there is a term x square. X square means it means that one individual cannot replicate itself. To reproduce one individual, it need at least, means here, not at least here, two A individual is required to produce one extra A individual. This term means x square means if x is the probability of taking one A type individual, then x square will be the probability that two A type individuals meets each other and one offspring produces. So here at a time two individuals is required for producing a new individual. Now if nearly all B type individuals are present there, then the frequency x square, that to find if one A type individual will rarely find another individual, so that's why they cannot reproduce at all. Even if the reproduction rate A is much more higher, suppose A is much more higher than B, but they will not have a chance to reproduce another individual, because since their A type of fraction of A type is very small, she will find very hard to find another A type individual. That's why she will not reproduce, and since she will not reproduce, the fraction will decrease, and that's why in nearly all B type individuals, A type individuals will be extinct asymptotically. So that is another example. This is an example where if more than two individuals are interacting in a population and reproduce, then there is this that the survivor of the first will automatically kill. So that's it. Is it clear? Now we will go toward the mutation. If it is clear, then
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And this is up to now nothing evolutionary game 3 came, only I am talking about the evolution and only the selection, reproduction and selection part. And here in evolutionary game theory you will see we will talk about this kind of game. This type of is called individual two strategy game, and this is the two strategy, two individual, two, this is called, this is two player two action game is will be model two player two action game. So in the game theoretic evolutionary game theory model will often encounter this type of example. Now let's go towards.
So in which lecture would you be starting the this game theory part?
Huh?
So from which lecture onwards would you be starting this game
From
theory part?
two more I will started the evolutionary game theory from two more.
Okay. Okay.
So please call first. Please let me introduce the mutation. Now we are talking about mutation. Sorry. Mutation. Now life takes advantage of mistakes. So uh, the mistakes means when reproduces when one organism make a copies of RNA or DNA actually which are the reason for the different types and different behavior, then if some mistake happens, then it may happen so that a type of up until now we remain in the regime of a type only can only reproduces a and b type only reproduces b. Now since DNA means since the replication process of DNA RNA in principle could be erroneous and could be some mistake happens there, then we want to say this mistake as mutation in our definition. So we will say the mutation if some a type of individual reproduces and another b type individuals, then we call the mutation. So if a type of individual reproduces b type of individual, we call mutation, or vice versa, if b type of individual produces a type of individual, we will call mutation. Now let us define the mutation rates. So suppose that mu1 is the rate at which a type reproduces b type, and mu2 is the rate in b types reproduces a type. Now let us write the equation again. Then equation will be simply, suppose x is the frequency of a, so x dot will be, so if a types reproduces with rate mu1, then 1 minus, then with rate 1 minus, then rate with 1 minus mu1, it will produce a type individuals, and with rate mu2, the b type individual will also this is mu1 and this is mu2, so with mu2 rate the b type individual also reproduce a type individual. So minus some function, it is suppose phi x, and y dot will be similarly x mu1 y 1 mu2 minus phi 1. Now from the same similar calculation we can show that phi here equal to 1, and we can write one equation, x dot equal to, that equation will be mu2 minus x mu1 plus mu2. And again from the similar type of expression you can see that here only one fixed point is there, so that fixed point is x star is mu2 by mu1 plus mu2. Now here we can guarantee that it will always go toward that this fixed point. So at the end of the day, we will find the population in this state. So it shows that the mutation here, we are assuming that the fitness of the two individuals are same, and in this scenario we can say that the mutation can also, due to the mutation, this A type and B type can coexist each other, and survival of all can be in principle happen because of only mutation. No selection is happening here, all because reproduction rate is same, so there is no selection is happening, but due to the mutation, the all individual could sustain in the population. And another thing I want to say, that is, if suppose one type of mutation is 0, so B type does not produce A type, B type only produce A type with rate 1, B types only produce B type with rate 1, B types does not produce A type, so that means mu1 is there, mu1 is greater than 0, but mu2 is 0, then the process equation will become x dot is, x dot is, okay, x dot is minus, x dot is minus mu1 x, and x dot is minus mu1 x, that means xt will be x0 e to the power minus mu1 t. So it shows that without, so at t tends to infinity, the xt will become 0. So that means due to the mutation also, the population, the nature could select one type of individual other than other. So here it means at the long run all B types individual will be there in the population, there in the population. So that means it shows that without reproduction also, without differential reproduction also, mutation could in principle select one trait over another. So that is one thing. Now in principle this mutation could be, we can extend this mutation to n dimension, and that, then that is called the mutation matrix. Let me write it, mutation matrix, that jth type, the rate, the probability that jth type reproduce or mutated to ith type, the probability of that is qji. Then we can write the equation, the change of the frequency of ith type will be j equal to I to n, that q j I, jth type changes to ith type if the jth type is present there with probability xj minus phi xi. So this is the equation, and this here again you will calculate the, you will get phi equal to 1, so you will, at the end you will get the equation x equal to 1 to n qji xj minus phi minus xi. And here after solving this n equation, because when you want to write the equation you will get the n equation, after solving the n equation you will also again get, find the similar thing. Yeah, okay, maybe that,
No, no, I got disconnected for a while. So,
okay, okay,
can you slightly scroll up? So,
okay,
yeah. So in this mutation part, yeah,
huh,
I could understand that what is I
hmm,
mean, getting mutated from
huh,
A to B is mu1.
huh.
So is this mu1 a probability or what?
Probability, it is a probability rate, means it is called rate but it is actually probability, and with which probability a will be mutated to b.
Yes, and similarly for B to A.
Huh,
And then these equations were developed, say 1 minus mu1. So
X.
x, I mean dx by dt. So dx by dt then is this, I mean, how did we reach to this
Okay.
equation? Because mu1 is the probability of getting converted from A to B.
So not converted means if A going to A, what will be the probability? That will be 1 minus mu 1.
Yes, yes, yes.
So if
And yes,
X is
I
the
could understand. Yeah.
so
And then
uh,
yeah, please scroll it down a bit further. Yeah. So why did we consider the value of phi is equal to 1 in both the cases?
okay, phi is equal to 1 because the same that my population size is constant, that means x plus y equal to 1. So if you add these two terms, you will get automatically phi equal to 1.
Okay, okay,
You have
fine.
to do x dot y dot equal to 0. So from that you will get phi equal to 1. So previously whatever we do, so same step if you
Y-
follow, you will get phi equal to 1.
yes, yes. And then we got this value of x star.
Hmm.
Uh, and then now we are analyzing that what if the mu1 is greater than 0, but then there is no mu2.
Huh. Yeah. Then
All right.
I am saying that only the mutation could select one trait over other. So here, if this is happen, then this equation tells us that at t tends to infinity, all A type will be extinct and only a B type individual will be there in population. This shows that only mutation can select one trait other than other, where there is no difference between the reproduction rate. So then I just extended the idea to two individual population, two type of population, so n type of population, and the result will be same. With we have to write this kind of equation, and the conclusion will be also same. So that's the only thing I want to say here. Now I want to say another thing before ending this class. Is until now it is clear? So this is the mutation part.
Yes, yes. Uh, yes, but then
Huh.
in the last point wherein
Hmm.
you mentioned this thing, say xi dot is equal to this stuff.
Huh.
So how do we solve? I mean, such equations, because how many such equations would be there? Say, j varies from
N
one
minus
to
1.
n. So then, for every ith individual, for
Hmm.
every ith species, there would be. But then the value of n is two. N is two fixed here, isn't it?
N is
So n is equal to two here.
no n is n no, no, n for any number you can solve this equation. So you can using the linear algebra method use. Let me show one thing here. The qiji has the nice property here. So all qij's will remain between 0 to 1 because it is the probability it all remain between 0 to 1. So this is one property. The second property is if you sum over all I, you will get 1 because so here sum over all j equal to 1 to, oh sorry, this all over I, all over I equal to 1 to n qji, it will be 1 because this is the probability in suppose j type individual, either it will produce 1, either 2 or 3 or 4. So this is q j1, q j2, q j3, q j4. So it will reproduces one among these things. So since these are the probabilities, so if I add it up 1 to n, it should be 1. This is j, this is I.
Yes.
This is the second property, and third property, this is called the row sum is 1. Okay, that's, and third property is the it has, since j and I has same, so this matrix, that qj matrix, same rows and same columns.
How? Because the probability of getting mutated, say from J to I,
Huh.
won't be same. I mean, need not to be same, because the value of the QJI need not to be same as
Okay.
QIJ.
Yes, yes, exactly. But its summation should be 1.
Summation is one, fine.
Huh.
So
Only
then why did you write here the same rows and the same column?
oh, same number of rows, sorry. So same
Okay.
number of rows, sorry. Same number of rows. My mistake. Same number of rows, same number of columns. So if any matrix follows these three property, it is called the stochastic matrix. And in linear algebra, by using linear algebra, we can show that this has some nicest property. One of the property is that this stochastic matrix always have one eigen value which is exactly one eigen exactly one, and all other eigen values will be less than 1. So not less than 1, less than, exactly strictly less than 1. This is the property. This is the one property. Now if I write this equation in terms of matrix, so this will be x dot is x dot means this is a row vector, suppose x1 x2 x3 dot 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 xn. So x dot will be x into this q vector, this q matrix. This q matrix is element qji minus x. So until now, is it clear? I am writing this n equation in terms of matrix mechanism.
Yes.
Okay. So after that, uh, what I am saying, so what will be my fixed point, the set of the fixed points? The set of the fixed points will be at which point these will be 0, that means q is equal to x. So since we know, since this means nothing but that it says that q has eigenvalue 1, since we know there exists one eigenvalue whose eigenvalue is 1, that means we in principle we know there exists x whose corresponding whose eigenvalue is 1. And if I know that, if I just calculate the normalized eigenvector, normalized eigenvector, will get the population set exactly. Population x star will be that, the normalized eigenvector will be the population, exact population size, exact population state. So are you talking about this, or I'm means that's how you can solve simply.
Yes, yes, yeah. Now I have a idea of this thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's it. Now another thing I want to tell here before ending this discussion. So one thing is called that Hardy-Weinberg principle, which is random mating theory. So it is very important in a sense, random. So we are talking about the evolution principle of Charles Darwin. However, in the first class, we learned that in the principle evolution, Darwinian evolution, there is a problem, which in the Darwin evolution always thought that the offspring will get the trait of average trait of a father and mother. Means the father's behavior and mother's, if you blend the father's behavior and mother's behavior, the blending behavior will be uh, inherent by the offspring. Suppose then then random mating theory says that if that's how we inherit our father mother property, then if then we will see at some point of time there will be no variability in the population. If in the population the mating will be random, then at the end of the day you will see all the individuals who are there, whose behavior will be the average behavior. So nothing is selected here. Only because of random mating, the trait actually changes, and trait changes to average state. Suppose there are some short individuals are there, and suppose some large means higher means tall individuals are there. If they randomly mate, we will get in the population that this is the blending theory of Darwin says that blending inheritance theory says that all offspring of the population will be some near between. This is the medium. Now nothing is selected, only random mating and doing this, and no natural selection is there because there is no variability. But Darwinian by himself cannot resolve this problem. They how individual inherit their characteristic from their parents. These because he was unaware of the work of one gentleman named Gregor Mendel, who have worked this theory, means worked his in his inheritance theory. He actually experiment on a pea plant, and he shows that this inheritance is not blending, but it is particulated. Particulated means it is not like a continuous thing that is blending itself, but it is a inheritance is a discrete thing. So let us give the thing that for an diploid individuals, for diploid population, for diploid population. So for diploid population means in the offspring there will be two chromosomes. One is coming from father and another is coming from mother. So every chromosome will contain one DNA. So two, and DNA means genome. So two copies of genome. Two copies of genome is actually means two copies of DNA, or copies of chromosome will be the same thing. Same language. People use this differently, but they are telling same thing. Now two copies of genomes are there in a diploid cell. Now gene, what is the gene? So if I see a DNA, and in DNA in some particular position, some fraction of the DNA is called gene. So that means in some particular position we will get, means in a cell for diploid organism, in a particular in a particular position of the DNA. Since we have two DNA, so we have two copies of genes. Two copies of gene. Gene means nothing but a particular position on the DNA. Now in that particular position of the DNA could be same. That means father character, and gene is a characteristics for one behavior, and the gene is sometimes called the allele. Now here the thing is that maybe it could be possible that two genes coming from father and mother are same, and it could also be possible that two genes coming from father and mother are different. Now suppose that in a population only two two types of gene is present. Two types of gene is here. Two types of gene is present. One is one gene is same part of a DNA from father, and another gene is, suppose another gene is the same part of the DNA of your mother. So that means a particular location is called gene. This is gene. I am writing. So I am writing. So this is the gene. Now in principle these two part one could be anything, and one could be other could be anything. So in principle this could be different. So let us assume that there are two kinds of genes are there. One is A, another is B. Suppose A is, these genes are reason for particular behavior, particular characteristics. Suppose there are some gene which are which are the characteristic, which are the types of, suppose black hair color, these genes are cause for the hair color. Suppose there are two hair color, one is red, one is black, right? This is red and black, right? Right, this is red gene and this is blue gene. Suppose red is denoted by, again red is denoted by A type of gene and blue is denoted by B type of gene, and this A and B type is called the allele. So these, that means there are in one particular gene, means one particular location, and this particular location there are two genes, genes are called allele. So A and B allele are present there. A and B allele suppose present there. Now in, if we go in a population and you check what kind of gene in a particular, if I take a particular individual and if I check the DNA sequence, genome sequence, and see what kind of allele is there in some individual, you will get in the same part of the gene you will get two gene is two gene which is represent, which is reason for a black hair is there, red hair maybe, sorry, it is red hair is there. In one individual you can find that the father is father is red hair and mother is black hair, and another thing is mother is, father is black, father is red and mother is black, and one is BB. So these four types of, four genotype is possible. So we write actually these three genotype, AA, AB and BB. Three genotypes are possible. Three genotypes are possible. Now if I say that X is the frequency of this genotype, Y is the frequency of this genotype, and Z is the frequency of that genotype. Now if I ask what is the frequency, what is the frequency of the allele, A allele, what is the frequency of A allele? Suppose A allele frequency is P, so P will be, now if I take one individual randomly, what is the probability that it will be A is X, what will be the probability that he may be Y, AB it is Y, what is the probability that he may be BB, that will be Z. And if I take that individual that with probability X, and what is the probability I will find A allele, that will be 2 out of 2, and what will be the probability that I will find A allele here, that will be 1 out of 2, and here 0 out of 2. The P will be X plus half Y, and similarly Q will be Z plus half Y. So this is the current, suppose the current generations current generation allele frequency and genotype frequency. This is the genotype frequency, allele frequency. Now in the next generation, suppose in the next generation, what will be the frequency of that A type? So the frequency of the allele in the current population is P, allele frequency. Now X type means 2 A type allele will be there. So what is the probability of getting one allele? That will be P. And what will be the probability of getting another allele? That will be P again. So this P square, and Y prime will be 2PQ, and Z prime will be Q square. So this will be the next generation genotype frequency. So that kind of population will observe in the population. Now if I now calculate what will be the, now in the next generation's allele frequency, what will be the next generation allele frequency, that will be, so again from this calculation, so you will get P prime will be X prime plus half Y prime, and Q prime will be Z prime plus half Y prime. Now this is the case, if I put these things here, this is P square plus half 2PQ will be by P P plus Q, this will be P, and this will be Q square plus half PQ, Q, P plus Q will be Q. So that means my allele frequencies does not changing. P Q prime plus Q. That actually solve the problem, or since P prime and Q prime is same, then you will find that that means uh, these will be also same. X prime will be X, Y prime will be Y, and Z prime will be Z. So this is a very interesting result. Although this is a null result, that means my population state is not changing. My population state will remain same. So that is actually showing, that is actually telling uh, one beautiful thing, that it resolved the problem of the Darwin. What Darwin says, that because of random mating, no selection is there, but because of random mating, in if inheritance blending, the all the population in the long run will see all one type of population there. Suppose we will not observe black and red hair clear color individuals. We will see all suppose mixture of black and red, some brown color of individuals in the population. But if I go through the Mendelian work, and this mathematics is done by Hardy and Winberg, and this shows that no, it is not the case. With if I assume the Mendelian heredity, then you can actually show that with the random mating, the allele frequency, the genotype frequency, then the behavior of the individual will not change. The behavior of the individual will remain same, because the allele frequency in the population will remain same, and also the frequency of the genotype, that means the behavior of the in the population level will remain same. So that actually solved that why the variability does not goes away with random mating, and that solve actually the Darwinian problem. So that's it for the today's class. So if you have any question, then you can ask me.
No, it is. I
Hmm.
mean, I mean, by and large, it is clear to me.
Okay, then that is it. Means it is nothing to do with our evolutionary game theory, but it is showing that how you can, means by the Mendel's work, how you can solve that long standing problem with Darwinian evolution. So that's it. So then let's end this meeting. We'll meet in the today, tomorrow's 11:30.
Yes. So,
Huh.
can you recommend some course, because that book is actually very costly. The book which you recommended, and the
Okay.
soft copy of the book is not available, I think, in the open repository somewhere. So can you suggest some alternative book or a course homepage wherein the notes are available and which are close to whatever you are going to deliver in the coming sessions?
One thing uh, I can share the soft copy with you.
Okay, okay, yeah,
I will
that
I'll
would be
mail
great.
every.
Yes, yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes. Fine.
Okay.
Thank you so very
Thank.
much. Tomorrow at the same time.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.